Based on our analysis of the voice, it's time to try them with the arrangement. The first thing is to test the voice we picked on the computer here on the guitar. So our choice for A minor was the voicing 4-5-4 started on the G note that generates flat 7, flat 3, flat 7, flat 3. The other one was the same thing, it was 4-5-4, but this time started on the E note. So it generates a fifth, root, fifth, and root. So in practical terms, what that means is that every time we hear an A minor on the groove, we can play also this voicing, this voicing. For the D minor, the same thing, but we choose the voicing 4-4-4. And the choices are the ones starting on the D, that generate a root, fourth, flat 7, flat 3. And the other one was the harmonically fit one that was 2 frets below, right on the C note, that generates flat 7, flat 3, 6, and 9. Again, so every time you hear the on the groove, we can also play these quarto voices. So another important detail is that when you start to use these ideas is to really emphasize the original arrangement and then add the quarto voicings. What I mean by that, on the strong beat, still play A minor and D minor. So that's what I'm going to do. Don't start with quarto voicings right away because you will change the context of the harmony completely. And as you get more experience with quartos and intervallic voice, then you can probably start to test more outside stuff. But in the beginning, keep it simple because in harmony, context is very important. It's probably the most important thing. Anyway, so the way I will demonstrate the arrangement is to first play 8 bars, just playing A minor, D minor, 2 bars on each chord. And then I will change the arrangement by adding the quartos again on the strong beat. I was still going to play A minor and D minor. So I pre-recorded the quarto arrangement after the 16th bar just because I will play a solo over it. And because I also wanted to show you that even though we're not going to play just A minor and D minor, the harmony will still, the context will still keep intact even by adding these voicings. So what that means is like I can freely add the melodies as if I was playing over just the playing A minor and D minor, and the harmony will still support my solo. It usually actually better because there's more harmonic movement. So what I mean by that is like instead of a, sorry, I will have all right, without any further delays, let's try it. A minor to D minor. Quarto. One extra thing I wanted to talk about, and I have quickly mentioned when I was explaining the IVT, and that is the concept of the outside voicings. So outside voicings by the theory are the ones that contain neither the third or the seventh, and plus in some cases neither the root and the fifth inclusive, meaning both. Well, always try things before making any conclusion purely based on theory. At times, you may find some cool voicings that the theory says outside, but then when you go and try, they actually sound pretty good. So my point it is that just because it doesn't contain the main notes of the chord, as the theory is stating, does not necessarily mean that it will sound bad. So I wanted to show you this with an example. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to go back to that groove and the voicing 4-5-4. So I don't know if you remember, but then you consult the video before. The software told me if I start playing this voicing from the root of the chord, you would generate root 11 and root and 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this arrangement that the software told me it's outside between quotes. And for the D minor, so I would play this voicing, start on the root, would be the 5th string, note D on the 5th fret. And for the A minor, same deal, but start on the 12th fret, 5th string. And let's try to see how it sounds. A minor to D minor. Outside. As you can confirm, the voicing that the software said it was outside just because it did not have the 3rd and the 7th sounded pretty cool actually. Again, this one from A minor and then D minor. In fact, I like this movement better than the original one. So what this proves that there's nothing in music or in art in general is set in stone. In fact, by breaking the rules is when many times you come up with the coolest things, and that's the type of thing I always tell my students. So musicians can come up with all sorts of complex theories for everything, but ultimately in music, in any art, it's an art form, so therefore like the best judge for what sounds good or not should be your ears and not some complex theory. This concludes our discussion of quartal voicings, and I hope you now understand better how you can use them in your music. I could come up with more examples, but instead I decided to defer this to intervallic voicings because you see that the process is virtually the same. And this is because intervallic voice is a generalization of quartals. So to recap, the steps are you have a chord progression you want to embellish, and then you pick the quartal voice you want to use to embellish this progression. So 4-4-4, 5-5-5, 5-4-4, whatever, which one you want. Then you figure out the modes you want to associate to each chord of the progression. Likely you want to use minor modes for minor chords and conversely major modes for major chords and so on. And then you input that data into the IVT, or you can do it on a piece of paper too. Then you look at the report and you separate the voices that are mostly inside, the ones that are mostly outside. And then you experiment with your choices and determine which ones sound better to your ears. And then you finally go back to the chord progression, then you test it, and that's it. In this section, I'm going to discuss all the features of the IVT, which stands for Intervallic Voicing Tool. The first thing you need to know is that the IVT is a web-based software tool, so you need an internet connection to access it. Also, it is not free, therefore you must buy the membership to use it. It should work on most modern browsers. If you use Internet Explorer, definitely version 7.0 or higher. And it was also tested on the latest version of Safari, Chrome, Firefox, and Opera. To get to the IVT, you need to open your web browser and go to my website by typing at the main URL box of your browser http://www.guitarv.com. But once you're there, you won't see anything yet. Start by buying the membership if you don't have it, and to do so, just click on the Store button. On the next screen, click on the Memberships button, or you can scroll down through the product list until you find the membership products. Then choose which length of usage of the tool you want. The time I made this video, you could purchase 1 or 3 years memberships. Also, these prices are subject to change without notice. So once you decided, just press the Add to Cart button. Finally, review your order, then press Proceed to Checkout. The final payment is processed by PayPal, which provides a highly secure shopping cart. Also, you don't need to have a PayPal account to buy it. You can buy with any credit card that PayPal accepts. Usually they put the option to the left. So once you're done with the payment, you will receive an automatic email with your password and instructions on how to access the IVT. With your password ready, go back to the home page. Then you click on the login link, and that takes you to the login screen, and there you enter your credentials, which is going to be your username, which it is usually your email, and then your password. Once you're logged in, back at the front page again, a new button will show up at the navigation menu, which says IVT, and then you simply click on this button, and that will take you to the Intervallic Voicing tool at the creation page, at the voicing creation page. The IVT is composed by 2 pages, the voicing creation page and the IVT report page. On the voicing creation page, you click on the guitar grid to input your voicings. The hotspots, like I showed you before, are on the strings and in between frets. And if you want to reset everything to an empty guitar grid again, just press the reset button. The guitar input control follow the conventions I also mentioned during the quarto video. The 6th string is the bottom string, 5th string going up, and so on. And the tool uses a standard guitar tuning, meaning the E, A, D, G, B, and E for the string notes. On the bottom of the voicing creation screen, you pick the scale or mode type and the root note. There are several scales and modes to choose from, and they are divided by type, which are currently natural, melodic, harmonic, pentatonic, hexatonic, diminished, and miscellaneous. Each type will have 1 or more sub-options noted by name. For example, if you pick natural as the type, you have to choose between the 7 modes we've been talking about. Another example would be the harmonic minor scale. And then in this case, the IVT will give you the 7 modes that derive from the harmonic minor scale, which are noted here by harmonic minor, Locrian 13, Ionian sharp 5, Dorian sharp 11, the famous Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13, Lydian sharp 9, and finally Locrian flat 11, double flat 7. Explore with the options, and if you have a mode you'd like me to add to the tool, send me an email and I will try to incorporate this mode to future revisions. The root selection is pretty straightforward. You just pick the root note and the accidental, meaning if it's a sharp, a flat, or a natural. When you're done with all your selections, you just have to go and press the build button to go to the next screen. This is the report screen where the software analyzes the selections and makes the reports. The top of the screen is the guitar neck showing you the voicings that the software found, and the white numbers and letters are the scale notes and their positions on the neck. The blue lines mean the perfect voicings, and the green lines are the ones that have been adjusted to fit within the mode. Down below you find the report tables. To the left, the perfect voicings, which match precisely what you have entered on the voicing creation screen, and they are directly connected to the blue lines of the guitar neck. The right table is the same deal, but connected to the green lines because these patterns have been adjusted. And the reports display the notes that are being generated by the voicings at a particular fret. So for example, if you see under voicing notes 7, 3, 6, 9, then it means that this report is connected to the blue voicing, in this case 7, 3, 6, 9 on the guitar grid, and the rest follow the same pattern. These tables have two columns and the rows are ordered by strength from the most inside at the top to the most outside at the bottom. In this case, the 7, 3, 6, 9 is listed to the right of the 3 and 7 because this voice contains the 3rd and the 7th the mode. The full criteria from the most in to the most out is as follows. First, voice that contain root, 3rd and 7th, all the 3 notes. Then voice that contain the 3rd and the 7th, both. And then voice that contain either the 3rd and the 7th and the root. And then voice that contain root and 5th, both. And then voices that contain just either the 3rd or the 7th. And the rest, which are the voices that have tensions, unstable notes, and outside notes. Notice that it's unlikely you will input a voicing that makes all options show up, because the software discards options that it doesn't find. From this screen, you can go back to the voicing creation screen by clicking the Revise button, and that will carry over all the information back so you can make adjustments if you'd like. But if you press the Start Over button, then the current voicing is discarded and you're back to an empty grid, guitar grid at the voicing creation screen. Most of these features I'm talking about I already discussed at the quarto lesson. Here I'm revising them and showing all the options more thoroughly. However, there's one feature I will only mention here, and that is the outside tab. So if you click on it, you will see now red lines. This tab shows a similar voicing analysis, but the software will not try to adjust any voicing to the mode. Therefore, all the intervallic structures are going to be precisely what you have input on the voicing creation screen, even if you hit notes that are completely outside the scale. So you can confirm that these red lines hit spots of the guitar neck where there are no white numbers or letters. So these notes are not either tensions or unstable notes. They are indeed outside notes. The bottom reports are similar. The left one's exactly the same as the inside tab, and the right one shows what the red lines are generating. And they are connected to the guitar neck the same way. For instance, in this example where it says on the table 5 root star 4 and out, this one is connected to the voicing star on the 4th string 5th fret of the fretboard. And notice that the word out means that this note is hitting an empty part of the guitar neck, so it's a short for outside. You may wonder, why bother with the outside tab? Well, precisely for the same reason I showed you on quartos, that even if the software says it's out, does not necessarily mean it will sound bad. Remember, we're talking about music's an art form. So you may find a way to make these voices sound great too. The report is there, it's saying it's out, but the final choices, they are always up to you. There are times where you will find extreme cases. For instance, you may not find a single inside voicing within a particular mode or scale. An example would be the voicing 4/4/4 over a whole tone scale. It will give you this report. It looks totally empty because this particular structure was not found anywhere within the mode. Or put in a different way, there isn't any inside way to play the voicing 4/4/4 over the whole tone scale. But if you still want to try, and then you have to click on the outside tab and look through the outside voicings to see what choices you have. And this will be shown in this case with red lines only. Other times the software will give you collision of notes because it finds more than one choice, like this one. But this is actually better since you have more choice to choose from. On the next section, as I teach you intervallic voicings, there will be more examples. At first glance, these tables and grids, they can look complex, but once you go through the process a few times, you see that it is actually really easy. And that's pretty much it. In this final part of the course, I will discuss intervallic voicings. So what are intervallic voicings? So in short, intervallic voices are like quartals, but not limited to only fourths or fifths. Intervallic voices are any intervallic combination of notes. It is the big picture. However, there are two main aspects of intervallic voice that you need to know, and I already have hinted you with them during our discussion of quartals. First, it is to still visualize chords or voicings by their intervallic structure and not simply by the notes that compose them. And second, and surprisingly simple, it is to just extend the technique of quartal voice to any voicings without any limitation. So in other words, if it works for voicings based on fourths and fifths, so why not use the same technique to voice based on seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, nines, etc., etc., in any combination of these intervals. That way, you are not limited to anything anymore. You can play countless combinations of voice on top of any mode. Granted that the underlying theory, it is still the same. Therefore, you still need to pick the voices you like. You have to map them into the modes you want to use using the IVT or a piece of paper. Then you separate the inside and outside, and then you finally test them. But this huge amount of flexibility can now open you a door to unlimited possibilities, meaning as long as it sounds good to you, you can do whatever you want. You can play anything on top of anything. And to show you how it works, I will work on a few examples shortly. In this section, I want to talk a bit deeper regarding visualizations of voicings or chords by its intervallic structure. I did quickly mention quartals, but I feel it deserves more discussion. Indeed, this idea was a major breakthrough for me, because when I realized that what makes certain chords sound better than others was not only because of their notes, but also because how the intervals between their notes are structured, their intervallic structure. All of a sudden, all these complex chord notations had almost no meaning to me. For example, a C minor with major 7, add 9, or a G7, sharp 5, flat 9. All of these turn into nothing practically. The idea of visualizing these complex voicings or chords by 4-4-4, 4-5-4, 3-3-3 was much simpler, less ambiguous, and much more efficient, because especially with the IVT, I might be able to make a minor chord in standard chord notation like this sound dominant, for example. But what was even more interesting was to find out as a corollary that certain patterns of intervallic structures sound really beautiful inside different voicings. To exemplify, I will discuss now one structure of intervals that in many cases created the most beautiful voices I play on the guitar. And there is a combination 2-4-5, no inclusive, meaning it does not need to use them all. It can be a 2-2-2, 2-4-5, 5-5-5, etc., etc. It seems like, and this is just in a 4-note chord, in many cases that I mixed these intervallic patterns, something really cool came out of it. And I will show a few examples and arpeggiate them. So starting from the 4th string, the 5, flat 2, and 5. Another one starting from the 4th string, a flat 2, a 5th, and a 2nd. One more starting from the 4th string again, a 5, a 4, and a 2. So another one, now this time starting from the 5th string. A 5th, and a flat 2. Or a 5, and a 2. A little harder to play. And one more, and this is actually one of my favorites. A sharp 5, a 2, and a 4. Etc., etc. Well, not all of them work, of course, but certainly there are many that do. So many that I concluded that this intervallic structure had a fundamental factor of how these chords sound, not only their notes. And obviously, there are also many others that don't follow this pattern that sound great too, like this one, a 5th, a major 3rd, and a minor 7. Yet, even this one contains a 5th and a minor 2nd in it. So now, if we try to list all the possibilities from the combination 2, 4, 5, it's much more complicated. Contrarily to the 4th and the 5th we saw in quartos that gave us only 8 possibilities, now I can have a 2nd, a 4th, and a 5th times a 2nd, 4th, and a 5th times a 2nd, a 4th, and a 5th. So it's 3 times 3 times 3. That gives you a total of 27 voicings. And they will follow the pattern 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 2, 2, 5, and then 2, 4, 2, 2, 4, 4, 2, 4, 5, etc., etc., etc. And that doesn't count the alterations, because if we count the flat 2s, the sharp 4s or flat 5, the sharp 5, etc., and then we'll have many, many, many more. And of course, this cannot be studied in a short video. It can take years for you to go over them all. However, the arrangements I work on the next sections will have some, and the utilizing process is virtually the same to any of them. So if you understand correctly how this concept works, it will be just up to you to spend the next years finding and incorporating these beautiful voices into your music. In the next sections, I'm going to work on 3 arrangements using the Intervallic Voicings Theory. So in all cases, I will start the computer screenshot to show you the charts first, as of right now. Then I will switch to the IVT for the voicing analysis. Then I'll go to the guitar, do some testing, making some comments, and finally I will play the arrangement. Exactly like I did for quartos. It's really no difference. The process is the same, like I said before. Anyway, so the first one will be this rock pop tune groove shown here. And by the chart, here we have 8 bars of playing E minor going through for the A section. And then for the B section, I borrowed the change from my tunes. So it goes from a G to a D chord to an A, back to E minor. And these 2 bars repeat itself for 4 times. So give you a total of 16 bars, and there's an A section, B section. They're pretty standard. And also, don't worry about these root notes written here on the chart, just the chords. This was just a software limitation, so I had to input root notes for me to input the chords. So anyway, the only thing that's relevant are the chord changes. Since we have a lot of space here on the first 8 bars, I'm going to use the range I'm thinking right now. I will use the voicings more openly. That's what I'm trying to come up with. And for the B section, I'm just going to embellish the E minor chord, so giving a little pulse with some arpeggios, so keeping the harmony flow more or less intact in B section. The reason I want to do that, so you have 2 types of approach. Here I'm going to use the voicings, the intervallic voice more aggressively, and here just for embellishment. So anyway, for this example, I'm going to use the voicing sharp 5, 2, and 4 for the A section. And for the B section, I'm going to use the voicings 5 flat 2, 5, and 4, 5, 2, both to embellish E minor. So I'm going to flip-flop from 2 bars I use one voicing, for the other set of 2 bars I use another one. In the other chords, I won't do anything fancy, like I said, the G, D, and A, so I'll keep exact edit as written. Let's start by inputting the voicing sharp 5, 2, and 4 on the guitar grid first. And then I'm going to select E Aeolian because I wanted to keep the sound of the plain minor scale throughout the A section. And also I'm going to play the voicing starting from the 5th string here. That's how I put on the guitar grid. Alright, let's then press the build button and then we go to the next screen. By looking at the result, if we play this voicing starting from the 5th of E, the note B, in this case a 2nd fret of the A string, we'll get a very strong voicing because you will have the flat 3, the flat 7, and the 5. So if you look at the chart here, it is a perfect voicing, and it generates a 5th, flat 3, 11, and flat 7. Also, by analyzing the chart, another one that seems very interesting is the one starting from the 9th, which is 2 frets above the root in this case, because it creates the 9th, the flat 7, the root, and the 11th. So I think for this arrangement, that's what I'm going for. I'm going to use these 2 voicings. The rest, they seem pretty outside, and in this case, I don't really want to use any harmonically fit ones. In fact, because this particular voice I choose is one of my favorite ones. So this precise intervallic combination is really appealing to me. Therefore, I'm going to try to come up with an arrangement only using perfect structures. In other words, I want the sound sharp 5 plus a major 2nd plus a perfect 4th, no alterations. Our next voicing is the voicing 5, flat 2, 5, on top of the E minor chord again, but this time we will use this voicing just as an embellishment. For the root and the mode, I'm going to set the same values as the previous one, and that is E as the root note in the Aeolian mode as the mode. So this time I'm going to input also the 5, flat 2, 5 on the guitar starting from the 4th string, just as a variation. And then we press the build button to move to the next screen. Some good choices here, but I will stick with the perfect structures only, since this voicing in particular as is sounds great. So in other words, by looking here at the guitar fretboard, let's just focus on the blue lines. And looking down at the chart, my first choice therefore will be the same as the software recommendation, which is the voicing 5, 9, flat 3, flat 7 here right by the perfect table. And this voicing is generated by playing the voicing 5, flat 2, 5 starting from the 5th of E, which is the note B. And in our case, it will be precisely the 9th fret of the D string. Finally, for this arrangement, we will use the voicing 4, 5, 2 to embellish the E minor chord again. So the input parameters the same for the root and the mode. Same deal, so E it will be the root and the mode Aeolian. So now we just need to enter 4, 5, 2 on the guitar grid, and I'll do again from the 4th string to have a little bit of variation. And then after pressing the build button, we move to the next screen. Lots of blue choices here, which is good, meaning lots of perfect voicings, but I will stick again with the safe bet. This is just to demonstrate how predictable the technique is. So in our case, the best choice according to the software will be the voicing flat 7, flat 3, flat 7, and root, which is basically an inversion of E minor 7, but without the 5th. So to get there by looking at the guitar grid, it's simply a matter of playing the voicing 4, 5, 2 starting from the 12th fret of the D string in this case, right on the note D, which is the flat 7 of E minor. So the next step is to test all these voices on the guitar and come up with the final arrangement. Let's put the piece together now by showing how the voicing sound based on our analysis. So I did some testing with the voice, and here's the idea I had for the arrangement. For the A section, I'm going to play the voice sharp 5, 2, and 4, starting from the 2nd fret, then E minor and the voicing again, but then starting from the 9th fret, and now starting from the 5th string. So this movement. But the theory only gave the notes that fit within E minor and that follow the precise intervallic pattern sharp 5, 2, and 4. So my testing confirmed the theory and they sound good, but that's not enough. So what I mean by that is how I'm going to play these voicings is now purely an artistic choice. In this part, I can't really teach because everybody's different and there are countless ways of doing it. And what I like may not be what you like and vice versa. So precisely my idea was to keep the voicings flow with a pedal note E, giving a feel of space, very pop-like. So in other words, I'm going to let the E high ring freely and I'll go from the voicing to E minor to the voicing. So what I came up with for the A section was something like this. But you could do a different way, maybe arpeggiating in a different order, like this. And they will be fine, so it's really an artistic choice, like I said. So for the B section, I kept it pretty simple, and I decided to simply arpeggiate the 5, flat 2, and 5, and the 4, 5, 2 instead of playing E minor. So the original chord change was something like. And for the arrangement, what I did the first time through, I will do 5, flat 2, 5, and the other time will be the 4, 5, 2. So it'll be. So you see I'm kind of flip-flopping, exchange between the two. So anyway, but before we hear the final product, I really want to stress that the arrangement, the technique, the order, the voice, timing, rhythm, etc., is all beyond the scope of this course because it varies immensely by instrument, style, musician's background, and so on. I'm here to really teach you how intervallic voices work and not how you will arrange them in your music. That part's totally up to you. Okay, so without any further delay, let's hear our first arrangement. The second arrangement will be a blues in C with a jazz feel. In this case, I will use a combination of voicings just to show you different flavors for the arrangement. For the first chorus, meaning the first 12 bars, I'm going to use the voicing flat 2, 3, and 4, which is not quartal since it has a third in it. I picked this one in particular just to show you how versatile intervallic voicings are. I'll talk more about the voicing when I get back to the guitar. And for the blues bridge, meaning the last 4 bars, here from the G7 to F7 to C7, G7 sharp 9, I'm going to use a quartal voicing 4-4-4. In the second chorus, I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to use the voicing 4-4-2, just to give a little bit of variation. And for the bridge, the same deal. I will use the quartal voicing 4-4-4 again. Now we have to analyze 3 types of voicings, which are flat 2, 3, 4, then 4-4-2, and finally 4-4-4. Fortunately, since it's a blues, we only have one type of chord, the dominant chord. Therefore, I will pick the root C and the mode will be mixolydian. So the rest is just a matter of transposing the voicings to F and G. I will also create these voicings starting from the 4th string. So in this case, again, just as a variation. So let's start by inputting the flat 2, 3, 4. Again, picking the mixolydian mode and the root in C. And then we press the build button and let's see the analysis. On this screen, we can see that the software only gave me one option for the perfect one. And that is starting on the 13th of the mode. So it generates the 13th, the flat 7, the 9, and the 5th. So in the case of C, I will be playing it from the 7th fret of the 4th string, which is the A note. And for the F7, I will just transpose the pattern. Also, I will discard the harmonic fit ones, since I want to show something very interesting about this voicing when I get back to the guitar. Moving on to the voicing 4-4-2. So the same deal again. First, we input the voicing and I will do it from the 4th string, and then I will select the mode mixolydian and the root C. And then finally we press the build button to see the analysis. By looking at the results, I decided to use this time the harmonically fit one. It starts on the flat 7 the mode and it generates flat 7, 3, 13 and flat 7. Since it has flat 7 and flat 3, it's a very strong voice indeed, and because it's generating the tritone, the sharp 4 interval, which is the characteristic of the dominant chord, it made it even more appealing to me for the final choice. So for all these reasons, I will not use it as embellishment either, but as the main chord, meaning I will play only this voicing during the first 8 bars of the second chorus. Let's now look at the voicing 4-4-4 for the bridge. To use it over the G7 going to the F7. Again, let's input it on the guitar grid, and this time I'm going to select F as the root and the mixolydian mode. And then press the build button again. By looking at the analysis, and since I'm going to use this one just as an embellishment, any of the choices the software gave to me should be fine. In this case, I'm going to still use a perfect voicing, and I decide not to pick the first one on the list, but the second one, and this is because it starts on the 3rd of the chord, which is the strongest note, as you know. And this one in particular generates the 13, the 3rd, the 13, the 9, and the 5 in this order. So that's going to be my choice. I could go either way, but you know, it's just a preference really. So with all this information, let's go back to the guitar and test them all. For this arrangement, I want to show you something really interesting. I decided to use the voicing flat 2, 3, and 4 over a dominant chord on purpose. The IVT told me if I play it from the 7th fret of the 4th string, right here, having C7 as my root chord, it generates 13, flat 7, 9, and 5th, like this. Here again, C7. Here's the voicing. Anyway, what I'm going to do for the arrangement, I'm going to switch back and forth between the two, using the flat 2, 3, and 4 voicing as embellishment. So it'll be this movement. So far I like it, but if we look more carefully at this voicing, something really cool is hidden in there. And what is it? Well, basically, from a standard harmony point, this voicing is pretty much a minor 9 chord, right? So in other words, what I'm actually doing, I'm playing a G minor 9 on top of a C7. See how interesting that is? The IVT gave me the choice to play a minor chord on top of a dominant chord. So without the intervallic voice theory, I would never guess to try this in the first place, quite honestly. But the IVT showed me that these notes should work perfectly fine over a dominant chord. And indeed, it created a really cool harmonic movement. Here it is again in C. And in F is just transposition. C again. And then the bridge. Anyway, so my point at this is that this kind of a harmonic movement happens all the time when you start to play around with intervallic voicings, and that proves how versatile the theory is. As you go deeper and deeper into intervallic voicings, you will find all these hidden things that it can take literally years to discover, for you to discover without any help. Like in this case, who would you guess to play a minor 9 chord on top of a dominant chord? Anyway, so here's the movement again. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, so moving on to the bridge, for this one I kept it really simple. I just added the 4/4/4, the quarto 4/4/4, right after the F7, G7, like the IVT showed me. So for the D7, it starts on the 9th fret of the 4th string, right here. And for the F7, or the 7th fret of the 4th string. So here's our quarto blues bridge. Again. And for the second chorus, I decided to use the harmonically fit voicing sharp 4, 4, and flat 2. It derived from the 4/4/2, and it generates flat 7, 3, 13, and flat 7, like this in C. Although it sounds very dominant because of the triton right here, the full voicing was a bit extreme to my taste. So what I did to smooth it down a bit was just to slide it and play the high notes separate, making it sound more like a riff, like this. I play 1 fret below it, and I slide, and I play the flat 7. And for the F, just transpose. And when I go to the bridge, I didn't really do anything different. It was the same thing. For the G7, play the 4/4 right here. And for the F7, I played the 4/4 right here. Anyway, all these little tricks I'm talking about show you different approaches for different arrangements once you have your voicings decided. And again, these tricks I can't really teach, so I'm teaching some of them right now. But these things just come with the experience and the style of play, etc., etc. And one more thing that I forgot to mention on our previous arrangement, but you may have already guessed. So, and that is, I will always play a quick solo at the end of the arrangement, using the arrangement pre-recorded after a certain number of bars. And this is just to show you that you can also solo exactly as you would normally. Because remember, the underlying harmony, it is still the same. There shouldn't be any collision of notes between your solo and the intervallic voicings that you pick in your arrangement, assuming that they don't contain any unstable notes or outside notes. Anyway, so let's hear this one. Now let's look at our final arrangement, which is a bossa nova groove, so that we touch a bit of the Latin area. Notice also that these examples I picked were not only by different styles, but the criteria was also by chord flavor. So in this case, the progression is mostly about major chords, as opposed to the rock tune, which was mostly about minor chords, and the blues tune, which was mostly about dominant chords. This progression in particular is again a simple 16 bar like the rock tune, with an A section that revolves around C major 7. And for the B section, some simple modulation, very much bossa nova style. For this tune, all the voicings are going to be as embellishment, so I will keep the main chords on the strong beat in most cases. In the A section, I'm going to use the voicing 5-5 because it generates some cool options. And for the B section, I will alternate between the voicing 5-5 and a non-quarto one that I like a lot, which is the 5-3-2. And you will see it shortly. Okay, let's go to the IVT and see what we find regarding voicing analysis. Since all the chords I'm going to embellish are major chords, I will use the Ionian as the main mode and C as the root. So we will input the voicing 5-5 with these settings to start with, and the rest is just going to be a matter of transposition. So I'll do this one also starting on the 4th string. Again, as we input that on the guitar grid, let's just press the build button and check out the analysis on the next screen. With this voicing over the Ionian mode, there are two very interesting options by looking at the results. And they are the first option of the perfect list and the first option of the harmonically fit. In both cases, they generate the 3rd and the 7th, which makes them very strong. In the harmonically fit one, the software adjusts the major 2nd to a minor 2nd. And I know this particular voicing, it's the 5-2-5, which is really beautiful. Definitely be a good choice. And it starts on the 3rd of the chord, which the note E, in this case, the case of C as the root. It generates 3-7, root, and 5, pretty much the inversion of the major 7th chord. The perfect one is cool too. It starts on the 5th of the chord. It generates 5, 9, 3, and 7. As I said, very strong because of the 3rd and the 7th together, so likely to be a very good choice. So I will use this one as well. Finally, let's analyze the voicing 5-3-2 over a major mode. I will pick Ionian again and C as the root one more time, because then to transpose to the different roots, it will be pretty simple. Let's input the voicing again on the guitar grid, the 5-3-2, and I'll start from the 4th string. And then we move on to the next screen after pressing the build button. For this one, some good choices, but to simplify, I'm going to use the first choice of the perfect voicing list, which is the root 5-7-9, no 3rd, but it should be alright since I'm just going to use it for embellishment. So to get this voicing, we simply play from the root. So in the case of C major 7, we play it from the 10th fret of the 4th string right on the note C. So transposition to other roots for this one is pretty trivial. Just a matter of finding where the root is on the 4th string. Alright, let's go back to the guitar and do some testing. Let's now look at our final arrangement, which is a bossa nova groove. I did some testing and decided to use the voicings as embellishment arpeggios only over the main major chords of the tune. Therefore, the arrangement was very simple. So for the A section, after playing the C major 7 for 2 bars, I did arpeggiate the voicing 5-2-5, starting from the 4th string and the 2nd fret for 1 bar. And then next, I played the voicing 5-2-5 from the 5th fret. So like this. Arpeggiating.
Then before going to the B section, I plucked the 5-5 again just on the last 2 beats, so to add an extra color to C major 7, sound like this. For the B section, I did a very similar thing. Precisely for the F major 7, I arpeggiate the voicing 5-5 from the 10th fret of the 4th string. Like. And for the C major 7, exactly the same deal, but now we're using the voicing 5-3-2 from the 10th fret 4th string, exactly like the IVT tone. So it sounds. And for E flat major 7, B flat major 7, I simply transpose the arpeggios. So it sounds like. So very similar. So that was basically it, nothing very complicated. But when you hear this arrangement in the next section, what I did, I played 16 bars of the plain chords, meaning no arrangement at all. So just to give you a taste of the groove. And then the next 16 bars, I add all these intervallic arpeggios that I just showed you based on the choices we picked from the IVT. And finally, the same deal. I take a little solo over the arrangement just to show that it doesn't collide with anything. All right, let's hear it. This concludes our course on intervallic voicings. I hope this theory opens a new door of possibilities for chords and voicings to you as it did for me. And I want to also tell you that intervallic voices don't stop only at the harmony level. I showed you here mostly as chord embellishment technique simply for educational purpose. But you can also easily take these ideas to the realm of soloing. For instance, in one of my solos during the quarto discussion, I played this lick. In fact, this lick is a modification of the voicing 2, 4, 5, adding a passing note. Again. Therefore, you can explore this area as well using your intervallic voicings as the main notes of your licks and adding passing tones if necessary to connect them. I even have a free video lesson post on YouTube. It's called Intervallic Pentatonic Licks. And there I was showing some intervallic licks that I use over the pentatonic scale. Simple stuff. But really, I don't discuss in the lesson where they come from exactly because of time constraints. But most of these licks I play in the video came from adapting some of my intervallic voicings to licks, like this one, a 5, a 4, and a 5. So as a voice and as a lick. So on the charts of this course, I add a few extra voices that I did not mention here because of time constraints again, but I know from years of playing that they sound really good in different circumstances. So please feel free to test them not only as intervallic voicings over different chords, but also as a framework for intervallic licks that you may invent in the future. So here's an example. It's just a second and a sixth as a voicing. Sorry. And as a lick. So I had a passing tone and I did a little twist. And one more thing I also want to make a quick reference before I finish is that even in our quartal discussion, I taught you quartal voicings in a different way that's taught in advanced jazz courses. For instance, in regular harmony course, teachers would not even agree with me that the voicing 4-5-4 is quartal, but simply two harmonic intervals of fourths repeated different octaves because they are thinking precisely on the notes. And this is exactly the point of this course, is to really break from the paradigm of looking at chords simply by their notes and indeed focus on intervallic structure. Even this example, they forget there's a fifth in between fourth and between the two fourths. So to me, 4-5-4 sounds very quartal. Moreover, I can use in countless places with the help of the IVG. I might be able to use over dominant chord, minor, major, diminished, etc., etc. So my discussion of quartals in this course was focused to show you them as a subset of intervallic voices and not as a regular quartal chord course. And remember, the foundation of intervallic voices is the fact that notes can be whatever you want them to be, but intervals follow constant patterns of sounds. In other words, a C note can be the root of a C chord, a sharp 9 of another chord, flat 2 of another chord, sharp 11 of another chord. It's all about context. So, on the other hand, an interval of fourth, they produce the same type of sound, and that's the key the intervallic voice explores, and also that's what makes intervallic voicing so powerful, flexible, and predictable. Anyway, for finally, this material has been copyrighted by international laws, so please don't make it copies, pirate copies, or post these ideas somewhere on the web, or tell that they're yours. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching.